everybody, I am joined once more with Eric Anderson, formerly known as BioFan, joining me for another episode of the Landsmeet as we really talk about our thoughts on the Veilguard. I actually haven't made a pure spoiler-filled video on this yet, so me and Eric are just going to go wild today with our thoughts on the Veilguard. But first of all, Eric, how are you doing? Thank you for joining me at very early for you, but quite late in the afternoon for me. How is your day going? Even though it's just started.
It's good for people listening to this. It is 9 a.m. for me in California. I'm drinking some plain black Lucanus approved coffee and doing well. Yeah, happy to be here. Done several playthroughs. Now I think I'm at probably a combined 100-something hours.
Fantastic.
Total.
Full disclosure, folks, we will be talking about spoilers, but this is just going to be a full-on spitball vomit of every single thought we've had on the Veilguard. Very much impulsive. So just in case you are avoiding anything, this is your warning, because me and Eric are really going to get into it.
On the note of spoilers, start off with like my biggest thought of all. That's
Go
like
for
the most thing. So I was very surprised that the companion time who like lied or betrayed us was both all of them and none of them, because it was Varric.
Oh!
Like I was thinking, okay, like they know we're gonna be looking for someone and we're all looking at the mages, and I'm like, I think my final guess was gonna be Harding, because I was like, it's gonna be the one we're gonna least suspect.
For sure.
And then they gave Harding magic. And I was like, it's gotta be her. It's definitely going to. It's gonna destroy us all. And then the fact that it was Varric, who was the least suspected, because he wasn't technically a companion for more than like 5 minutes. But I was, first of all, like going through the game the first time, I was kind of like, like it doesn't seem like people are like talking to Varric much. He's mentioned some scenes. I thought it was just like maybe there was going to be more interactions later, or I thought like, oh, maybe it was just like, you know, how chaotic the development cycle was or something. They just didn't have time to add in like Varric talking to other people or what have you. But I like something felt off, but I didn't really notice it. So then when it was revealed that he had died, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And I actually cried.
Yeah.
I did.
Oh yeah.
I cried.
Yeah.
Because I was like, my friend.
Literally, how do you think that BioWare did it well? Because I genuinely thought it was really well done, but I have seen criticism online of people being like, oh great, so they just killed off, you know, one of my favorite characters and it was all a hoax all along.
So I have a degree in creative writing.
Okay,
so
hell yeah.
I maybe have some degree of a resume, enough to speak to.
For sure.
I think it was really well done, because for any character, there's only so far you can take that character. And once a character can no longer grow or develop, they're no longer interesting to a story. Varric was taken well, but very far because he was so loved. So they took him to the absolute limit of his development and growth. And I feel like seeing more of Varric wouldn't really add more to his character. So I think he went out in a way that really played tribute to him.
For sure.
As well. That twist at the end it got me. I really enjoyed it. And I think I told you too in our last conversation, because you were like, do you think they're going to kill Varric off in this game? And I said, possibly. But if they do it, it's going to be at the end. You gotta build up to it.
You did, yeah.
Definitely did. And then replaying Veilguard, it's so eerie.
That's it.
It's so different replaying.
That's it.
No. And you're like,
and that's the thing that I loved about this game, and it's the same as the whole Solas reveal. You get to the end of the game, and it makes you want to replay it just to see how differently it is compared to that twist. And that's why I think it worked well, because it had that same aspect for me of, shit, I'm going to replay this right now and just see that. And then you can see it point blank now. You're like, oh, Harding just walked in and just sees Rook talking to a bed.
Yeah, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
I will say one of my like kind of cons to the game is after you replay it once, there's not a lot of ways to have a different experience after one replay.
Yeah.
Which could be why they limit you to only having 3 rooks, which is another con for me, because I wanted to play like every origin, do every romance. So when they said you can't make more than 3 rooks, I was like, I have the data storage.
Yeah. What's the
issue? I have the space. Why
Yeah.
Why? What like reason? So maybe that's why is they kind of knew that like I will say like the more I replay it, the less I love it.
I get
just
that. I get that.
Less of
that surprise, the lore drop, the lore reveal.
And to a lot of the little things like decorating the lighthouse, armors, things like that, takes a while to get to where you can do that. And then a lot of the plot points where you can make different decisions is a lot later in the game.
For sure.
So it takes a while for a replay to really feel different too. But I do have a lot of pros about the game. I'll say in general, I love the game. Is it my favorite Dragon Age game? No. But did I leave my couch for a week? No.
that's the ultimate question, isn't it?
Was I seated? You betcha.
Yeah. What was your favorite Dragon Age game, or what currently still is?
Oh gosh. I know it's the easy answer, but Dragon Age Origins, even though the combat is
ass,
reminiscent of a game that came out 20 years ago, I will say I think Rook is my favorite protagonist.
Oh, okay, hit me. Yeah.
I mean, there's pros and cons to Rook, but I like Rook because, at least for like how I wanted to play it, like I played a very non-serious Purple Hawk response, Sword of Fortune. And so that was really fun because Rook in general is very like unserious, feels young, feels just comedic in general, and I enjoyed that. Granted, when I've played like a more serious tone Rook, it kind of feels a little off because they just stay comedic. But that blank slate I feel like was helpful. And then too, you can kind of come up with your own like headcanon backgrounds a little bit easier, except for a few of the Rooks do have like very specific origin stories that you don't find out until like just one line mid-game. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Like I found out my Lord of Fortune Rook escaped from being a slave into Venter, and I was like,
way. Flip it.
You're just gonna drop that? You're just gonna casually one-off line.
And how do you find that line out then?
I think it was, and if people listening to this, if this is wrong, I'm sorry, but I think it was when I was talking to the Shadow Dragons at one point. It came up. I want to say that's when it was. That or during like a Lord of Fortune conversation. Somewhere talking to a faction or something, it was revealed, and I think it was a dialogue option even. It wasn't
sick.
Like just a line, I say. But yeah, and then if you play a Shadow Dragon, you were a baby that was found on a battlefield into Venter, which is kind of eerie. And then
that's similar to the Morn Watch as well. You don't have parents, and you were found in like a coffin or something of the sort. Yeah. And then, you're kind of brought in that way. It's like, oh, bloody hell. But you have Vorgoth looking after you. I
love the like mystery and kind of the openness of that. If you can kind of fill in any blanks you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did. My Rook was Lord of Fortune, blonde hair, unserious himbo. It was kind of like a mohawk, and it had the little like side braid on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that hairstyle. The hair in general.
Oh, the hair is it's so beautiful.
Like most improved award goes to the hair.
Yes. There needs to be a Game Award nomination for best hair in a video game, and it should go to the Veilguard.
That is my biggest pro of this entire game is character creator. That is my biggest pro. This is the best character creator I have ever used in any video game.
Yeah.
And if you told me that the next Dragon Age game was going to have the best character creator I've ever used in any video game, I'd be like, really? I'm excited.
Yeah.
Did not expect this. Because you can make very different looking Rooks and different looking faces. And did I constantly take notes of small tweaks? We're talking like 5 to 10% on certain sliders for like the first like 30 hours of the game? Yes. All my Rooks perfect and ready for the photo shoot? Absolutely.
I remember you DM me. I've spent so many hours in Character Creator already, and I'm ready to play the game now.
I spent 3 hours on my first Rook.
Yeah.
And I wish, like, the only way they could have made the character creator better, and this is honestly, like, this is after the character creator is a 10 out of 10, so I'm just saying, like, if they wanted to absolutely blow it out of the park, they could have, like, you know how you can press the button to make him talk and, like, test out the voice? If they could do, like, some kind of, like, just, like, general dialogue lines, you can kind of see, like, facial movement and expressions.
Yeah.
Because like I would just be like, okay, I need to move his cheeks up 10%. I need to like make the jaw like 10% wider. I need to change the depth of the like do that throughout the game, and I would constantly update it. But like by the time I made like, let's say 5 to 10 trips to that mirror of transformation, I was looking at my rooks throughout that game and I was like, I'm in love with this man that I created. Like none of these romance options deserve this. Can I do some blood magic and just like romance myself? Like, hello. Like my rooks, all of them, even my like lady rooks, and I'm very gay, even my lady rooks are like hot.
Smoking. Yeah.
The only like criticism I have of the character creator, and maybe they did certain things on purpose that I'm not aware of, is like a lot of the default preset heads are like a mound of clay to mold, instead of like they could have maybe made some presets that were maybe a little closer to my caliber of work, if you say. Like for people that didn't want to do too much character creation, they could have had some like more like model ready to go kind of presets. The male Kunari does have one that's pretty solid already, but like for all the other ones, I feel like I was doing a lot of work to get it where I wanted it to be. So they maybe could have had some less like clay to be molded presets. But again, like
the tiniest of nitpicks. The tiniest. Who was your favorite voice actor then?
Ooh, so here's my thing about accents in this game. There used to be clear rules. There used to be very clear rules with very minimal exceptions.
I know where you're going with this.
Like dwarves and Kunari, aside from the protagonist, because you can do whatever you want, but dwarves and Kunari, like NPCs, all used to have like American accents. All other people used to have like some dialect of British. I think they were going for more like Celtic or things with like Dalish elves. And then in this game, all that just got I want to say they keep true like 75% of the time, but then 25% of the time you're like, wait, why are you American?
That was me with Balara. I was like, okay, but you're Danish?
Yeah, and then like Davrin is also an American accent, and then Viper is an American accent. And I was like, wait, maybe this is just a Northern Thetis thing. I don't think so.
I do get it completely, because it's like, well, we were told that Tavine or Tavinta itself is very posh London accent, and Trix Week said that themselves on a live stream. It's very, and that's why you get Dorian, Nev to some extent, and then it's like, oh, but the Viper's very American. Okay, and you didn't really get that many posh RP.
Is it May also American accent?
Yeah.
In terms of my favorite of the voice actors, the American male honestly does a fantastic job.
Okay. Is that
like I've used him. I've used all the voice actors on a Rook now, and honestly, like his delivery feels, they're all good. I'll say that. All of them are great, but the American male delivery just feels so natural. Like just extra natural, extra organic. The British male also does a fantastic job. And I know he's very proud of his work too. Like I see him post a bit more about it on social media, even though he's in a strike. I can tell he's really proud of his performance.
He so is. He's such a lovely man as well.
The British female, I think she's Scottish?
She is from Newcastle, which is an hour away from me.
Northern.
So she's northern, so it's Newcastle Geordie, and I love it. I love it.
So I was like, oh, okay, this like I could see how they maybe that accent kind of works if you're like wanting someone who could play like a human in this world, but also an elf in this world too. And it would maybe feel more appropriate with that northern accent.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they all did great, but I think the American male just really knocked it out of the park.
Oh, good. He's the one I'm yet to try. Yeah. He really, especially if you do humorous dialogue options, like he honestly just does. I mean, again, all of them were fantastic. In general, the voice acting in this game, all of the actors do very good work. Oh, for sure.
Some people have brought up dialogue issues and kind of quality of writing. For me, I know you said we're just going to go on tangents, so I'm just going to
go all the tangents.
I love this game. Bottom line, love this game. The best description I have seen, which I do agree with, is it does feel like the end result of kind of Frankensteining together its previous scrapped reiteration. And I can kind of see evidence of that, like chaotic 10 years of development and those multiple previous versions. So I do give the writers a lot of grace, but it did kind of have this, like, I know it felt a little more EA than a Dragon Age game normally does. Like there was this, hard to describe it, some kind of like shallowness here and there where the game could have gone a little bit deeper. It overall, it didn't feel like the same quality of storytelling or writing. It felt a little more like mainstreamed for a general audience, but at the same time, there's so much content that is tied to previous game content.
Yeah.
So it was a strange balance there. And I know they had this like, or at least I've heard that like a main theme they were going for was found family with the companions. And I think it was leaned into just a little bit too much.
Yeah.
It became more about the companions than the plot and the world of Thetis, which I think those two things are the main reason that we enjoy Dragon Age, is the world and the and the story. And I know they were very inspired by Mass Effect 2 and how that was positively received, and they were trying to kind of copy that formula. But the companion content, there was, first of all, I think just too much of it in comparison to the plot. A lot of times, like, I felt like it was getting on the precipice of something, but then it just didn't complete.
For sure.
I liked the companions, but some of the content just felt a bit like filler.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would have actually been better if they had less, or they condensed it, or they combined certain scenes. I know a big piece of criticism I've seen is, why do I need to gather a party, go to a location on a map, play a cutscene where two characters talk to each other? This could have been like hey Brooke, do you want to go have a picnic right now? Yes, no. Click yes, and then the cutscene plays instead of making me go somewhere on a map to do something. And the romances, I want to say this is like, at least for Dragon Age, my least favorite romance experiences. Right. First of all, they don't flirt back.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
They
don't. They just receive it. They just go, okay, yeah.
They just go,
or blush.
Thank you.
Yeah, like, I like you too.
I liked that they had the like pre-commitment point and then the commitment point.
Yeah.
I like that mechanic, but the first commitment point, like nothing really changed. Like it's just very like friendly. And the content, if you're romancing a character versus not romancing character, I want to say there's only maybe like mild differences.
A few cutscenes, if that,
I don't feel like they were in love with Rook as much as like Inquisition romances were in love with the Inquisitor. A lot of that romance content is like at the end of the game. A lot of the best content
the
is
good
at the
stuff.
End of the game. Companion content at the end of the game. I liked all of the final companion major plot point quests. Those were all amazing. Those were like character growth, especially Tosh's. When Tosh screamed, I screamed. As I was playing the whole game, I was just like on guard because I knew that Trick Weeks was going to emotionally destroy me. And as I was doing Tosh's quest, I was like, I'm real worried. And then Tosh's mom had that beautiful moment and then sacrificed herself. I screamed when Tosh, because that was beautiful. Like, I think Tosh's identity exploration was very well done in a way that also was very appropriate to Tosh too, because Tosh is my bestie, first of all. They are so direct in the most charming way. Almost like, I don't have time for your bullshit. Like, Tosh, they're
the youngest as well, aren't they? I believe Tash is even younger than Balara, I think.
I love them. On romances, like the companions that get together, I loved that.
Yeah.
Together, but what I don't love is that they have more chemistry with each other than they do.
Like Nev and Lucanus, it's like, whoa.
Nev and Lucanus, like, which is funny because like they're angry that their city didn't get saved, but they still go for each other. Like Tosh and Harding, I saw a TikTok literally this morning of some of their like dialogue, and they're talking about sexy time. And I was like, at this point in the game, if you've romanced either of them, which you haven't because they're romancing each other, but if you had romanced either of them, like they're doing it. Yet Rook is like
still weird.
At least in Inquisition, they make like allusions to things too, like Elven Glory. I think too, like I remember when I romanced Dorian, like you can physical with him fairly early on, and then there's still romance content after that too. For the characters that clearly more physically inclined, like Tosh and Davrin, the development of this game is probably a lot more chaotic than we even know.
For sure.
And you're definitely way more on the beat than I am, especially with the developers and the writers. I'll tell you the vibe I'm getting, and then you can let me know if you agree or disagree based on having way more information than I do. I feel like the people that worked on Veilguard are glad it's done and they want to move on from it because it was so chaotic and they went through a lot. Yeah. And I will say it's a miracle this game is as good as it is.
Yes.
But I think the developers are all like, we don't want to make DLC. We want to move on from this hot mess express.
Yeah.
Is that the vibe you're kind of getting?
I'm getting that vibe because even I said that it exceeded my expectations, and I got a lot of people being like, what do you mean? How this is the... And I'm like, no, because my expectations for this game were mediocre. You know, it'll be an okay. I wasn't a big fan of Andromeda personally. You know, I enjoyed it, but it was, for me, when I first played it, disappointing. And I was being realistic, and I was like, you know what, though? I do trust in this team. It's the team who did the Trespasser DLC. You know, Trix is the lead writer. Now you got John Epler, who was the narrative director on Trespasser. This is going to have a good writing, and I really enjoyed for the story that they pulled together. Yeah. But it is better than I expected it, and that's why it exceeded my expectations because it was going to be multiplayer. It's been pivoted 3 times. They've had only since 2020 on development time. There's only so much you can do.
Like
and the team's changed so much as well. Like, and we live in a world where Baldur's Gate 3 exists, so people are going to do that to it. And for me, it was like, you know what? Actually, I'm really, really enjoying this.
I think for knowing what we know about its origins, like they did a fantastic job of delivering a final product that was good. The game is good. It could have been a lot better, but it is still good.
That's it. I
think the thing that could have made it, other than 25 to 50% less companion content, or at least just not like, hey, do you want to go have a picnic and learn nothing new about me as a character? Get rid of a lot of that. And then I think the single thing that could have made this game, the plot, like even better, is the most interesting part of the game, at least for the fans, was the wolf statue murals and the like scenes in the crossroads where you were like following the Dread Wolf's conquest. All of that should not have been semi-mandatory side content. That should have been main game plot. That should have been everything with a full-on cutscene, like full animation, full character. Like that should have been the focus. Instead, like everything in the crossroads should not have been. I don't know if it's actually side quest or if it's mandatory, but it should have been like main game, given the same level of importance as like Weishaupt.
I agree.
Level. If they had leaned into the original Dragon Age Dreadwolf title, I think it would have made it even better. Because to me, that was the most interesting piece of the game. I'm still like seeing people connect some dots from the lore. Like, for example, and correct me if this is wrong because I got this from TikTok, but have you seen that people are connecting the dot that Mythal was Andraste?
Or a separate aspect of Andraste. And even Davrin talks about Shartan when you talk about that in being cut from the Chantry.
What could have been soulless.
And they cut an elf. So it's like, oh, okay, why would they cut an elf from the Chant of Light?
Look at Andraste's head.
Literally.
Look at it.
And look at Shartan as well. Depictions of Shartan are a bald elf.
Morgan has one little mention about, I think it's like an Alamari chieftain marriage. And that was the like tip off that it was one of Mythal's like
aspects or bodies or daughters or horses.
Memory carrying on for, we need a better word for this, but one of her Morgans. Because people are like, okay, this doesn't totally disprove the Maker, because I know they don't want to totally disprove the Maker. Because what made the spirits in the first place?
It's true. And
humans, titans, and dwarves and spirits were all hanging out. So what made those 3? Because something created the spirits, supposedly. So like in theory, the Maker could have created the spirits and gone from there. And then like, I forget if this was in the game or people just kind of, or if it was in the art book, or if people just kind of deduced that when the spirits created their physical bodies using the Titans, that they took human form as inspiration. So the humans were already around.
Okay.
I forget.
Or was it in the shape of? I can't remember if it's like the Maker created humans in the shape of him, or I can't remember. Wow.
Yeah, I forget. I heard that I forget if it was in the game or in the art book or somewhere, but the elves, when making their physical forms, looked at humans and said something like that.
Oh wow! So humans would have existed and been around that time then.
Humans were there before. I saw a theory that, I like this theory. It was just someone's comment on something, but the Qunari origin could be that spirits, instead of using Titan blood, dragon
that's
blood.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's cool.
Their forms. So that's why they have like pointed ears.
Yeah.
And how like they get referred to as like a half-breed.
Yeah. Even Griffius calls them a mistake or something like that.
Mistake or something.
Yeah, and Kieran says something as well.
The soundtrack to me was just meh.
Yeah, as a big fan of Trevor Morris, coming off Trespasser as well, Trevor Morris, Lost Elf theme on repeat, Dark Sonos theme on the repeat. I enjoyed the title track and when that kicked in on pivotal scenes, but then like, I think of the Thedas Love theme when I'm kissing Josephine or hugging her. I'm like, oh.
The music just didn't give me emotion.
No.
And it was just kind of there. It wasn't adding to the scenes. It was just in the background.
Yeah, and you don't want it to do that. You want it to give it levity.
Yeah, so I wonder if, like, they, honestly, like, if they just allocated budget to other areas. But there was a lot of other aspects of the game where I was like, okay, you invested a lot of time and energy and resources into this when you could have put that elsewhere. Like, I know I'm not a game developer, but I know enough about game development to have some semi-educated opinions. So I was like, okay, you put so much energy into me going on a picnic with Davrin. Like, this writing budget, this voice acting budget, this animation work, like all of this could have been allocated elsewhere. And I know too, like, not everything they wanted to do for the romances made it in the game. So I was like, okay, why are we taking all these little casual moments and content instead? So there were, I will fault the developers for, I think there were some choices made that were choices. Yeah. And I don't know the circumstances under which those choices were made, but I feel like people play Dragon Age for the romances. That's a big piece of it.
It's one of the biggest pieces of it.
It's one of the biggest pieces of it. So I feel like that's an area I wasn't expecting to be let down.
So who did you romance, or who have you romanced so far?
So my first romance was Davrin, because he was hot. Like, when I first started my playthrough, I was like, Canis or Davrin? Who is
quite
my
the conundrum? Yeah.
And then just like future Rook planning, I was like, okay, I'm gonna play a crow later, so that makes sense to romance Lucanus with him. So I'm gonna go for Davrin. Yeah. Davrin's not a bad character, but I feel like too much of his personality is dependent on Asan. Yeah. Like,
it's so like, I am the carer of a griffin. I am the carer of a griffin. Turlum. I'm the carer of a griffin.
He's hungry. He wants food.
Yeah.
Half of Davrin's lines, and I'm like, I want to get to know the man. I want to, like, he needed a little bit more personality. Yeah. When I got to the ending, which is one of the best endings that BioWare has ever done. And when I say ending, I count everything after the no turning back as the ending.
For sure. Same.
I know, I think internally they considered that whole thing Act 3, and I think that's crazy. Yeah. That is Act 4. Consider Act 3. I don't know, like, the narrative plot of this game is hard. So, like, point. I think technically Act 1, the conclusion is Weishaupt, and I consider that, like, I guess that could be a good point of like Act 1. Like, once you gather all your companions, you go to Weishaupt, Act 1. Yeah. And then I feel like Act 2 is just kind of messy because
it's just companion quests.
It's just companion quests, and you have 2 per companion. It's constantly just like going back to the lighthouse and the companions being like, I want to have a 4th conversation with you.
But I just talked to you.
I just spoke with you. I went to the market in Treviso to get a cool armor I can now afford, came back, tried it on, and now you want to talk to me? I didn't do anything. Like, it was just too, they were so needy. They were just so all the time. Again, I don't know if it's a quantity of content or a quality of content issue, but there was just too much companion stuff, and now replaying it feels like a chore, especially too if there's not like massively different results from those conversations.
That's it.
Like in Dragon Age 2, if you didn't pick the right dialogue option at the right time with Isabella, consequences.
Oh yeah. It is. And even in Inquisition though, shaping the next divine, there being an invisible point system behind that, shaping Liliana to be hardened
those
or not.
Companion conversations were important.
Lingered.
Also, let me just say, when Isabella popped up on the screen,
I
squealed. I screamed. Full on fanboy. She is my favorite character in the entire franchise. And the fact that she was there, I put the remote down or the controller down. I had to like get up I had to walk from one end of my part to the other, sit back down, pick up the controller again, because I was just like, we're back.
Did you get the note? Did you get the note from her when you started as well as a Lord of Fortune signed
I
Isabella?
did. Actually, no, I saw her name.
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing that made me. I saw her name. I was like, I had a very strong suspicion she was gonna be in the game, but we hadn't physically seen her model yet. She had some concept art and stuff. I will say the Lord of Fortunes, I feel like get less backend content. A lot of the points you gain with them is through Tosh, and I'm like this. So like again, like budget allocation, chaotic development, but I loved being a Lord of Fortune. I feel like it was a good like neutral background. Like your opinion could go wherever you want it to go, and it would feel natural. Versus like if you are one of the other factions, it seems like those factions have a little bit more solidified values.
For sure.
Some of the decisions you don't really get to see the results of. Some it might have like a small result. Like for example, the Griffins. Like I chose for them to go back to the Wardens, and then they show up in the end sequence.
All right.
My thought on that is, okay, especially after like replaying, like now that all the archdemons are gone, we can actually like have a chance to minimalize darkspawn population and the blight. So like give them the Griffins so the Wardens can actually now have like the ability to really make a difference, because there's not going to be any more blight. Taking it back to Romancing Davrin, we at the end, which tangent, going back to the best ending BioWare's ever made.
For sure.
I was Romancing Davrin my first playthrough, so obviously I was going to bring my boyfriend with me
the
entire way.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Okay.
That was going to like keep him safe. If he's by my side, that will keep him safe. And so then...
Oh, no.
And so then...
Oh, no.
And my girl, Lace Harding...
Oh, no.
Said... Whatever it takes at all costs, and she died. I was like, I turned to Daphne and I was like, continue. I can't let her die.
Oh no.
First of all, because I love her.
Yeah.
She is better than all of us. She is too good for this world.
She is too good for this world.
She is a better person than I am. And also too, like plot wise, like she matters more to the world. Having the voice of the Titans, she can help a whole population of people. So here's my take on what you should do. You can't correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm correct. If they knew that was gonna happen, Davrin would want it to be him. The only reason it's a tough choice is because Hassan also dies. So Davrin would want it to be him. Davrin signed up when he joined the Wardens.
He did.
He sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
He tries to sacrifice himself like 3 times in this game. He would want it to be him.
Yeah.
He also will have a shorter life than Harding because he is a Grey Warden. So he would want you to sacrifice him.
It's like Harding's at the very start of her journey as well. Whereas Davrin is towards the middle end of his journey. Yeah. She's just beginning to learn about the Titan magic and what she can do with that for dwarves.
And she's going to make more of a difference in the world. Again, you're not necessarily seeing much of this result other than in the end slide sequence. Yeah. But Davrin would want you to pick him a sacrifice. That would be to him, he's like, hey, I go out by killing one of the Evanuris. That's the way to be. And I will say for my rook, because you can go back to your start of the end sequence, because there's no post game. Yeah. So I replayed it, romancing him and sacrificed him. Yeah. And the drama. I actually think that that's a better story for my rook. Oh. Because now my unserious hawk himbo Lord of Fortune guy is single again. I think that's a better story for my rook of he had a love that sacrificed himself, defeating the Evanuris. He has that history, but now he's single again. Because let's face it, Davin was gonna die in 10 to 15 years anyway. Yeah. So I think that's the correct choice. When it comes to, I know the other big choice that is up in debate is Minrathos versus Treviso. Yeah. I have some opinions.
Okay, hit me.
So a lot of people are correct in that better thing to do, the more ethical thing to do is to save Treviso, because people of the world are, if you don't save them, the market turns into a field hospital because everybody's getting poisoned with blight, and it has a worse impact on that city. But I feel like for the player experience, you get locked out of more content if you save Treviso. If you save Minrathos, you get more content with the Shadow Dragons. Like the crows are fine if you don't save Treviso, actually. Like they're still there.
They're all right. They're all right.
You don't get access to the shop and whatnot. But I think you actually, unless I fucked it up, I think you get more like crow quests still. If you don't save Treviso.
I think I did the same as that, and I got a lot of crow quests still because it was patching the blight in Treviso, and it was sorting a lot of things out.
Like
and
the
it
crows
felt like
are
there was a
better
lot.
off than the Shadow Dragon. So I now choose Minrathos every time, and if you save Minrathos, you get to pick who the next Archon is.
Yeah.
And it's especially a good choice when you know that the entire Magisterium gets murdered.
Yeah.
So, like, not knowing that the entire Magisterium is going to get murdered, which really is going to help Tevinter, to be honest. I would have gone with Dorian because that is the choice with that Magisterium that would have made a difference. But knowing that all of those people that were going to be roadblocks and combatant to the agenda are going to die, May.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So I think the correct decision is to sacrifice Treviso. To have like the biggest benefit to the world. Because yes, innocent people dying is bad, but like you don't see the consequences of that as much. Like for the player experience, for what you see on the screen. What you don't see on the screen, obviously like help the innocent people of Treviso. But for what you get in the game, saving Minrathos gets more content. Also, I feel like they both, like Nev and Lucanus both take it hard. I feel like Nev takes it harder.
She does.
Like Nev has a rougher time with it.
What I thought originally when we were looking at trailers and speculation, and I feel like this would have been really cool, was the final sequence was going to be in the city that you destroyed or you chose to destroy. So then you would have actually have seen Treviso instead of Minrathos. And I feel like that would have been a good way to do it because then it's like, that original choice you made, guess what? Now Treviso is purely ruined by the Elven Gods.
Oh, interesting.
But instead, it just goes to Minrathos.
Interesting, because then the Magisterium wouldn't have been killed. I mean, there's nothing in place of the Magisterium in though, but I like the concept. It's more the implications of your choices and actually it being a bigger deal. And actually, by the way, this is the battleground now for the final mission. But I get that's also huge, like implications. Like there's so much budget being put into the ending anyway that and I like how much budget. Like seriously, like that is one of the best endings, if not the best ending that BioWare has ever done.
100%. I
do think the final choice you have, there's 2 to 3 options. There's a clear superior option. But the difference that those final 3 options make is kind of the same end result.
It's the same end result. Solas is just tied to the Fade. Or like that's
so it. I wish there was a little bit more difference.
Me too.
There.
Me too. Especially behind the character of Solas and the complexity of him. We even, like, the game tells you so many times, especially when you're getting Mephal's essence, you may challenge the Elven Gods, you may challenge Solas. And it sounds like they were going to use the Mephal essence in some other way where you would choose. That obviously wasn't the outcome, but it implies that there would have been more endings surrounding them. And it's not like a Mass Effect 3 ending.
There's like a failure ending.
Yes.
I do like that. I don't think that's canon. I think that's not canon, but I do like that it was in there. And one thing that's cool too is if you don't do the final companion missions, like if you don't finish those and get them to like Veilguard status, those enemies are still alive and they're in the endings.
Oh, no way! I need to do that.
Big Tevinter statue that looks like Meredith from the Lyrium, you get the big skeleton glowy thing from Emmerich's final mission. And the Dragon King is there.
Oh shit! Gosh.
Aelia is there.
Which ending did you choose? I assume you got the best.
I mean, another thing is like there's a clear like superior.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Third choice. And like your A/B option again, like same result.
It is.
I do think that the other Inquisitors, which I will say I liked the Inquisitor being in the game. There is a clear benefit to having your Solus Romance Inquisitor. There's not a lot of, which I think it's a given that that's obviously going to be the superior Inquisitor cameo. But the other Inquisitor cameos didn't really get much out like to compete with that, especially to like my Inquisitor that romanced Dorian. They're standing next to each other. They're literally standing 2 feet away from each other. Just okay. But I did like the Inquisitor being included. One thing that was shooketh me to my core was every time the Inquisitor told us anything about what was happening in the South, I was like, excuse me?
Yes.
What happened? And we're just gonna casually tell me that Denerup, where I am the queen of with my husband Alistair, has been ransacked and is in shambles. We're just gonna casually drop that line. Like it's not the most devastating thing that's happened to Datus right now. The North is calm in comparison to the South. The Darkspawn are absolutely ravaging the southern half of Datus, and we're not hearing anything about it. We are sipping coffee in Treviso, and we don't even know. We don't even know. And Orlais apparently is also being taken down. Like I will say, like another piece that like early reviews and especially people that were on the Dragon Age Council said is like a lot of the codexes are a little bit too important.
Okay.
Like there's some serious stuff that happens in those codexes, which I think codexes are good for like supplemental content, but there was a few codexes that were a little too important. One that I've seen from a lot of mainstream reviews is that the villains were very one note, not very complicated, from a studio that gave us Loghain, which I agree they could have had some more depth. I know Gillenine had some codex entries where you get a little bit more depth of her character.
Yeah.
Like how she found out that the Venatori sacrificed a Hala at that ritual, and she was like, I'm glad. Like there's some choices that do show up in the game, like what you do with the mayor of Demeda's Crossing.
Yeah,
I think narratively the choice that I enjoy the most from that, I know you can send him to the Warden stuff, not seen the result of that yet.
No.
Oh wait, no, I did. He shows up as like one of the Blighted Warden Darkspawn things or something. You fight him, I think. I forget.
Oh really?
But
wow.
if you leave him there, he basically turns into a Darkspawn.
All right.
If you
let him live,
that's a side quest, and I was like, well, I don't want another side quest, so I let him go, and he joins the Venatori.
Yes,
and then I just know, as the most like weak-willed Venatori, he was front and center to be sacrificed to the dragon.
Yeah, oh for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I just know.
I will share my biggest con.
Yeah, you go.
It's just for me, and it's mainly appeared on a second replay and a third replay. Not so much the first one because I was so high on dopamine. Shit with playing Dragon Age, and I think it's a fair critique, and
Did it hit you just throughout the game the fact that you've waited 10 years for
literally,
this, and now you're playing it like about every couple hours I'd be like,
I'm literally talking to Solas right now. Gareth David Lloyd has recorded new lines for this, and we are hearing it, like things like that.
I'm moving a Dragon Age protagonist around data.
Yeah.
We can't pick Elfroot, but if I could pick Elfroot right now.
And we can't kill Nugs either.
Oh, yeah. When I saw one, I was delighted.
Yeah, it was cute. And they would come up and say, oh, okay. But I did want to kill one and make Nug hide. But,
and sometimes when they, like, dig into the ground.
Yeah, which is cute.
Yeah.
But it would be the directional dialogue. It is, and I've seen, I know there's loads of critiques on it, but it is just, it's not telling you the why and the how and what that means for this character. It's telling you the what. We need to stop Elganan and Gillinan. We need to stop them. And the reasoning for that is obvious, but it's like we talked about with Davrin as well. He's telling you what he is. He's a Grey Warden. He's caring for a Griffin. But the why, the how, the personality, the characteristics, and you do feel that on a second playthrough when you already know the lore, and I get it for people who don't know that, but in a second playthrough, it's like, okay, I get it. I've heard Elganan and Gillinan's name about 5 times in the same dialogue. And you'll have instances where Morrigan will introduce herself to you, and you can say, who are you? And she'll introduce herself to you again. And it's more the grounded nature of Inquisition and its dialogue that I'm reminded of.
Yeah.
Also, the idea of just being a bit more blunt, and if I wanted to create a rude, sassy person, I would have loved to have done that. And those options, you think it's going to be really mean and sassy, like in Inquisition, you could be really quite blunt and quite rude, and it's not that. And that's only worked for me on my my English female playthrough. I love that because she's got a brilliant voice for it.
Yeah.
But I felt like when I was doing my British male one, it wasn't the exact tone I wanted them to say.
Yeah. Sometimes too, some of those comedic or some of those like tough options where like the arms are crossed. It's not the like fist one. It's the like tough.
Yeah.
Are unintentionally rude.
Yeah.
And I was like, I meant to tell a joke. I did not mean to insult you. I am so sorry. Let me go back to my last save. Dev, I am so sorry, girl. I meant to do a hee hee ha ha.
Yeah, but that's for me. It's the dialogue and more so the tone. And I get it. This game was branded as a heroic fantasy RPG. I was on board with that and the marketing. Yeah. You are a hero, so you can be a bit of a dick, but you're not given free reign. It's not Skyrim.
You don't
it's never
need to
been
make
that.
any controversial decisions either.
No.
Like the Inquisition was definitely a high-level benevolent organization, but you could still make unpopular decisions like mages or Templars.
Yeah.
Versus Rook, I think only gets to make, I mean, like the biggest like gray choice you get to make, I feel like, is Treviso or Minrathos.
Yeah, that's feels like the mayor isn't really that great because he's a dick.
No, that was just to show you there's a choice system in the player. I mean, like, some of the companion choices, some of those are just A-B. Some of those are, there's a clear superior option. The toughest choice in the entire game, and this is going to give you a tangent, the toughest choice in the entire game, the one that made me put the controller down and go for a walk, leave my apartment and go for a walk and think about things, was Emmeric's final companion.
Oh, yes.
If he becomes a lich, or if you revive my sweet, sweet baby boy, my pure soul, my good time fella. And I had, who was Emmeric's writer? Do you remember?
Sylvia Fekitakuti.
Sylvia girl, if you're listening to this.
I believe she did Josephine as well.
Sylvia girl, if you're listening, it's great one. Serious. Like Emmeric's character, like that was the one where like, yeah, you have a lot of conversations with all the companions, but his character was so strong.
Yes.
His characterization was so strong. He was, I think, the best written companion.
I agree 100%.
And let me tell you something. When I went into this trying to decide which between Lucanus or Davin who was going to be my boyfriend, I was not expecting for that old man to charm the hell out of me, to absolutely enchant me.
Oh, yes.
Emmerich were like, if you shaved 20 years off of Emmerich, who's Davin? I don't know him. Like, I'm working on my Emmerich romance right now. I'm very early into it. I literally just recruited him and got to flirt one time. Yeah. And while they don't really flirt back, I feel like he appreciates what I say more.
He listens.
And I've seen a lot of TikToks of like which Veilguard romance would be best in bed, and all of them put Emmerich at the top.
As they should.
As they should. I loved his character.
Me too.
Like,
he's my favorite.
Genuinely brought him everywhere, because not only was he like the most respectful, he is like delightful, he is just whimsical, he is just like such a strong character archetype. Like you could put him in any situation and kind of have an idea of how he would react to it, because his type is so strong. Like Sylvia, again, if you're listening to this, fantastic work, best character in the game,
100%.
But yeah, that choice of...
So I haven't done the Lich one, and I do want to see for myself, but I am excited to do it.
And it's one of those ones where you have to debate, because there are good results for either choice.
I'm going to do it and romance them as well.
My romance, I'm going to do the Lich route because I feel like my mysteriously found as a baby in a coffin looks kind of demonic, but like hauntingly beautiful female Kunari necromancer mage. Yeah. I feel like she would want her boyfriend to be a Lich, and that would be interesting.
That'd be cool.
I'm gonna try that as a romance, but I do think like you just can't sacrifice my baby boy. He needs to be in the world.
I know, and he talks, he speaks.
He talks, and I will say, having done both the Lich route and having Manfred revive, I think that Emmerich is happier if you revive. Emmerich is still Emmerich if he ascends to a Lich, but it is a little removed. Yeah.
That's why I want to see what's like of a romance. I want to see what if he's. I imagine he'll still be removed, but at least he's got somebody else.
He's not quite as warm, but he's ascended to like a higher. It's like he's taken on more responsibility.
But then if you do romance him with Manfred, you've got a son together.
Yeah.
Oh, it's tricky.
Manfred is just...
Who's your favorite over Asan or Manfred?
Manfred, no comment.
Yeah.
Like, Asan is cute, but he's still a baby and he just cares about food most of the time. Like, love him, love Hassan, but like Manfred, no contest. No. Like, don't even. No, like if anything, the only character who I needed more content from was Manfred, because
I agree.
Every time he was like, when he pulled out the chairs and the table to serve us tea,
I
said, shut up. I said, shut up. And when he sacrificed him, we didn't even, the idea had not even come across our heads yet of how are we going to solve this problem, because we can't physically touch this because we're living beings. Our boy stood up.
He knew what
knew what he had to do. He said, I'm the man for the job. I got this. I'm the only one that can save the world. Yeah. And he did. He stood up. He sacrificed himself. He said, I got this. And he deserves to live. He deserves to live.
That's the thing about Emmerich, that he contrasts my biggest con, which is sometimes the plot feels direct, this is what you got to do, this is just what you have to do, but not the deep lore or the grounded nature of Inquisition, where there's that level of ambiguity in your choice.
Like Harding's A-B choice is almost identical. You just get less content if you let her be angry. Like, it's really not rewarding. Like, you get more if you tell her to like embrace her true self.
Yeah.
If you let her be angry, there's no reason for her not to feel like she should educate the dwarves, but she doesn't really make as much of an effort to educate the dwarves. Like, her final like mountaintop overlooking scene is her. It's not any of the Kalsharok dwarves with her. And then her like inside art visual is just her in the deep roads and not the dwarves with her.
Okay.
So it's kind of like there's a clear
better choice. Yeah.
Lucanus, I have some theories about, because from the art book and also to what I knew secret from previous iterations of the game, like Imshale was going to be a companion.
Yeah.
And I think when they, for whatever reason, Imshale was no longer going to be a companion, I think they took Imshale's story points and plot and joined it with Lucanus's.
Oh, wow.
So that's why they put the demon in him.
Yeah.
Because think about if you were to go to that underwater prison for different reasons, and there's a demon that you recruit from the demon experimental place. Doesn't that seem pretty natural? Wouldn't a demon have a very interesting perspective about what Solus is doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if your companion budget gets cut by one and Imshale gets cut, I'm not saying this is what happened. I don't actually know. I'm just saying this is what I think happened. They put a demon inside Lucanus to have that demon perspective or some demon commentary, but also too, like, some people brought up how like there were some lore breaking things here and there. Technically, a demon being forced upon a non-mage is something we haven't encountered before. They say it a few times, but they don't quite lean into enough of he's not a normal abomination. And when you don't save Treviso, he goes on a quest to get the demon removed from him, which I think technically is better for everybody. And if you do save Treviso, he like embraces the demon. And I'm like, should we be embracing a demon? Have we forgotten? Because like Spite is a demon. Technically, Spite's not doing a lot. Like, Spite starts out a little bit more demonic and then kind of chills out later on and just becomes kind of quirky. But maybe we could see Spite transform into a different, because like spirits can transform. So like I think it would have been, instead of like him embracing Spite, I think Spite should have turned into like a spirit of motivation or like something like positive. And now he has a spirit and not a demon.
So at least has that motivation, that payoff.
We're just gonna. And I'm like, Nev girl, like, I get it if you like a bad boy, but he's an abomination. He literally, there's you of all people.
Of all people,
Of all people, by the Venatori. I feel like it was let slide just a little bit too much. They could have put in a few more commentaries about like, well, this isn't a normal abomination kind of thing. So just kind of let that slide a little bit too easy. One thing that I'm seeing a note on right now, and I want to bring up to you before I forget it, is a lot of the marketing was around the like red lyrium idol. And it's brought up here and there. And it seems like it was originally intended to be like a very big thing.
It seems like that's what Joplin was all about.
But then I feel like at some point they just forgot that was supposed to be a big thing. So there's these little moments where it makes it seem like it's going to be big. But I don't think we, first of all, ever saw it. It's kind of mentioned by companions on the side. And I'm like, wait, when did that happen?
Even the comic storyline was pivoted, and that was 2018. But they were all going to get or chase after the Red Lyrium idol, and Solas was
like,
initially going to steal it.
Solas's dagger kind of looks like the Red
and it's somehow
from the Deep Roads. And I'm like, how? Where? In what way?
Literally. And he somehow purified the lyrium, and the dagger comes from it. Yeah.
Have you seen it? Have you seen the dagger? I don't see it. What are you talking about? And like, I think they were supposed to take the Red Lyrium idol, like Gillian and Elgarnon were supposed to take that to like turn into their dagger or something. But that got lost somewhere.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Because that was a huge build-up in the marketing and in the comics, and even in Twin
when
Nights.
That was shown in that little trailer that gave us nothing except that, we were all like,
what's going on? How? Whoa. Yeah.
We did, like, and also too, we didn't think Dragon Age 2 was going to be relevant ever again.
Literally.
We were like, whoa.
Yeah.
I would like some DLC just because I feel like there's areas that another game wouldn't have the geographical focus to show us.
Yeah.
So, for example, easiest one, Kalsharok proper.
Yes, that'd be brilliant.
I feel like maybe there was a dwarven faction that got cut out of the game.
Yeah.
Because you do a lot with the Kalsharok dwarfs, and they do, what was his name? Something guard. Stalgard. Stalgard joins you at the end. It's tied to Harding, who technically doesn't have a faction. They have an armor, and there's like dwarven decorations you can get from the lighthouse. So I feel like the Kalsharok dwarves being a faction maybe didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
So I feel like them having a proper dedicated DLC would be interesting because we get so many allusions to it had come. And I'm like, what does it mean? And I'm digging through the codexes and I'm like, what does it mean? So I feel like having Kalsharok proper would be a good DLC because I don't think they're going to do a post-game DLC. I think it's more likely that we get a like side adventure.
Like a Jaws of Hakon kind of thing.
Like a Jaws of Hakon.
Yeah.
That takes place before the no turn around point, and maybe that DLC adds like the Kalsharok dwarfs into the ending scene too. Or something. The Lords of Fortune deserve. That could be a DLC. And also too in that end sequence, I'm like, Isabella and maybe 2 other pirates, maybe. Like, could we not have added like a couple more Lords of Fortune into the end sequence, especially when they're all like that scene where they're all like walking through the street and the different factions like come together and all join, and there's that shot of everybody together, just Isabella, which granted, like she is the moment, but I would like 2 Lords of Fortune behind her, you know? So I think having a Lords of Fortune, maybe Ravane, maybe Saharan DLC or something.
Saharan would be brilliant.
DLC, because they have lots of concepts in cities. Maybe a reach, maybe not a reach is, maybe this is my pitch for Dragon Age 5, but having either if this is a DLC or at the start of the next game, starting out in Saharan.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get to see Saharan. And that could be an easy way to give us some like executor introduction.
Yeah.
Because like they did this with Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition of a DLC kind of introducing the antagonist of the next game.
Yeah.
Because we met Corypheus in the Dragon Age 2 DLC. Trespasser set up Veilguard. So I think it could be cool to have not, fully explore the executors, but to give us an introduction to the executors. I've seen a theory of maybe they're going to try and move Dragon Age into a more Mass Effect direction and carry Rook forward into the next game. I don't hate that idea because I think Rook could be explored further, but I do think, especially because there's that one, we've both seen it, it's that board connecting like each protagonist to each other.
Yeah.
And then there's a 5th one.
Yeah.
And it's a mysterious shadowy figure. So I think that's maybe a little more confirmation of continuing that trend of new protagonists.
But then maybe having Rook join that journey to introduce them to some regard, like Hawk to the Inquisitor.
Yeah,
Inquisitor
like
to Rook.
Having them pop up or something could be good. I also don't mind because I feel like Rook's story doesn't feel as finished as the other protagonists. The other protagonists got more conclusion.
For sure.
So I think some conclusion DLC could be good too. We talked about this. My original pitch for this game was like pirate adventure.
Yeah.
So much pirate adventure. That was the original like concept for the game, was you were gonna have a ship that Isabella got you or a submarine.
Yeah.
That art book was both fascinating and also made me feel disappointed for like what could have been too. Because some of those concepts of what early versions of the game I know it was just concept, but they were kind of better than what we got. So I'm once again asking for Dragon Age 5 Pirate Adventure.
Please.
Because that would make so much sense for like enemies across the sea.
Yes, traversing across the sea, you know.
And being able to go to like Saharan and like, around to like different locations. You could coastally, and a ship being your home base. Like that idea was really good. And then I think they said too, like your ship was gonna get stolen mid-game or something. And like anyway, I loved that whole idea. Another idea I had too for like a really cool start to the next game.
Yeah.
So remember how in Dragon Age 2 you start out in Ferelden.
Yeah.
I think because we didn't get to see any of the chaos that was happening in Southern Thedas, having our next protagonist be from Southern Thedas.
Yeah.
And going through like the downfall of Denerim, or just getting to see the chaos of what was going down in the south, and they flee that.
Yeah.
Maybe they get on a ship or something and they flee that, so you get to see what was going on.
Yeah.
And then you have some context for like, this is what the world just went through.
Yeah.
So that
this is why we've had to leave as well.
Yeah. Like this is what the world just went through. This is what happened. Some big changes happened in Theta. And then that transitions you into the, okay, well that ended, but like the executors had a hand in that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a really cool way to start out.
That'd be
the
brilliant.
Next game. Like I told you this before we got to play the game of I'm going into it with the mindset of this could be the last Dragon Age game.
Yes.
And I think the developers made the game with that mindset as well of this could be the last Dragon Age game. It's not going to be because it's selling well, which is also the biggest compelling reason for having DLC is EA might make them, but it is selling really well.
Yeah.
Like I get the argument for we should have a complete game. Totally good. But it's nice to have a sometime later extra piece of content that's made after they finish the game.
I agree. Yeah, not just Javik. The DLC's already made, and you can pay right now, but it's actually already on the disc.
Yeah, like I want like Trespasser. I don't think they made that until after Inquisition. I would like something either of Trespasser caliber or just some kind of like, again, it just doesn't feel like Rook's story has been wrapped up and completed, you know?
And it's nice
like,
to have
Rook
something
has
else.
A lot more to go through. Like Rook basically was like, hey, here's a problem. You were the one that was there. So like you have to be responsible to finish that. Also, even if you don't want to, like the world's going to end. So you don't have necessarily a specific interest other than the world is going to end. Like that's applies to everybody interest. And you solve that problem. Now what? You know, like the Inquisitor, I feel like had more vested interest, more like their story was wrapped up. Even though their origins are kind of similar to Rook, and then introduction of executors, which could be the least likely or most likely.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It depends on. The thing for me is I just don't want to wait another 10 years for Dragon Age content. It's just.
I don't think we will.
No.
Luckily, because part of why this took 10 years is
the pivots.
First of all, pandemic. But then Andromeda and Anthem, I think, contributed to the length of Veilguard's development cycle and those games not being received well and shaking things up and just how the studio was run. And EA, I think now, hopefully, because I think they might be switching their CEO or something.
He might be going to Disney or something, right?
EA for the past more than 10 years. Like, for example, on Inquisition, that game was only open world because EA said that all of their games had to be open world.
Yeah.
Anthem was only live service because EA said all their games had to have live service. I'm sure there was a lot of fighting around people don't play Dragon Age for this reason. People play this game for these reasons. And so I'm sure BioWare was really fighting for those 10 years when EA was like, this basically has to be Fortnite, which I'm really curious how in the hell they would do that. No. But like there's like hints of remnants from that.
Yeah.
So I think those factors all contributed to it being 10 years. And I'm glad that they didn't just put the game out. They like got it to a point where it was good.
And it's so polished. It really is.
It's
the animations.
So
there's
not a lot of bugs.
No.
Polished. Could have been better, but it's still good.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to move back to a 3-year development cycle, unless EA comes out of nowhere with another all our games must do this. But I think they maybe learned from
like
that
Star Wars as well.
BioWare, but just like across the board.
Yeah, because Star Wars: The Fallen Order and just, the Jedi Survivors franchise has done really well.
That all our games must be similar in some way, shape, or form. I think they've learned that was bad, and so I think that's going to be easier for the next Mass Effect and the next Dragon Age to do what the things that make those games why we like those games.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe even be even more truer to form next time round, as less of a custard of this feels like a live service, or this doesn't make sense.
And 2, tying up a lot of the plot lines of the series in this game, while could have been more of a focus and not just a result, does open the future of the series to a lot of new direction and freedom. In general, like trying to decide like out of 10 what I would give the game. First playthrough, I would give it an 8 out of 10, but then replaying it, I'm loving it less the more I replay it, which maybe I just need to take a break, honestly.
Yeah.
But now I'm leaning towards 7, so maybe I'll meet in the middle and go 7.5 out of 10.
I think first playthrough it was a 9 out of 10, but that's also hardcore fan lore theories.
Yeah.
No, I think as a game, I think 7 as a game, because that's the combat. And this is my experience. I played it on easy difficulty, didn't really care about the combat, wanted the story, didn't want to look online and see spoilers, wanted to enjoy as much of it as I could with the annual leave I had. So it was a case of playing it for a week solid as much as I wanted. And so the things that I know a typical reviewer or a typical gamer will look at, and I wouldn't critique. I didn't really care about the gameplay.
We're more here for the story than for the combat. But I will say...
But now I'm playing it, though, and I'm looking at things like that. I'm like, okay, the combat does get draining now. Okay, the level design, okay, the loot isn't as exciting. Okay, all right. That's where it's like, okay, I get those aspects aren't as exciting. And I am looking at Inquisition like, you know what? There are parts of Inquisition that I do miss. I've always called out the hub-based open world and collecting shards, but party banter flowed more. Having just being able to walk around in the area, really feeling it. Because in these areas, we're like in them and then we're out of them and then back in and out. Whereas in Inquisition, yes, we complain about the hinterlands, but it's just nice to walk through that forest. Dragonfight over there, can go see Dorian over there, but just actually experience this world. I like that a lot more. It was more emergent, more reactive.
Yeah. And do you think if, going back to my idea of like making the areas in Veilguard smaller and having more areas would have solved that for you?
Yeah, like Trespasser, like that, where it's just level Alluvion, level Alluvion, level Alluvion.
Yeah.
It's just, oh wow, somewhere else.
If we had gone to multiple Antiva cities, multiple Tevinter cities, like with Veilguard, I'm starting to probably need a break just because first, say 30 hours of the game doesn't differ all that much, especially because you have to level up the shops to get the looks. Like that piece is later game. The romances don't happen until late in the game. The character choices don't happen late in the game. So like a lot of that replayability is later game reward. There were a few moments where I could agree the dialogue wasn't great, but again, like I can see where the development was very chaotic. The budget was all the right places. Where they expended significant energy in some places, I question those choices. They could have expended energy, budget, and time into some other areas to make it better. But also too, like I don't know all the information. I don't know all the circumstances. But again, like it didn't feel like the writing we got from the team that gave us Trust.
I think that's very well put as well. And I don't know if it's been that much of a disaster that we'll get a Jason Schreier story in a year or two. I feel like that might still be something lingering down the line. But overall, bearing in mind it's been pivoted 3 times in the 10-year development, for me it's a good game. But for what we've got, it's great, and I really, really do enjoy it. I can't really say if it's how it fits in terms of how I like Dragon Age currently, because we're still going through it, still experiencing it, and I do have so much of a fondness for Inquisition, like grounded nature. But I do really, really like it, and I am happier than how it turned out with what my expectations were going into this. And it's just the current landscape of it is it came out at a time after Baldur's Gate 3. And you have so many other RPGs coming out next year, like Avowed, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Fable, where the book has been pushed so far in terms of what RPGs are now, and this goes back to that more action-adventure game as opposed to an RPG. And so where it does really good in some regards, like the story, like just like Emmerich, there are other regards that are like, this is okay for a game that would have been made 4 years ago. But in terms of an RPG and what even Inquisition did with its grounded tone, its choices, its consequences, there are things that aren't as good or up to snuff of what Dragon Age is.
I have seen this opinion, and I agree with it for, I think, a really good next step for Dragon Age and BioWare. Obviously, we're getting the next Mass Effect first, but I think a really good next direction would be, they can't remaster Origins. They do not have the ability to do that. They have their own custom engine. The people that worked with that engine are no longer at the company. Like, they could not remaster it. That is not possible. Full remake. I mean, like, the same, obviously, audio files from when the voice actors did their audio, that would save budget. And honestly, the voice performance was great. So, like, keep the same dialogue audio. I don't know how residuals work, but I would hope and pray that, you know, the voice actors would all get residuals or something. But full remake, and that way they can have a little bit more liberty to stay true to the original Origins experience, but then obviously, like, update it to a modern era.
For sure.
I think some people gave some examples of other things that have been done with other games, but, like, I think a full remake of Dragon Age Origins would be, first of all, very successful. Would be a really good way to bridge Veilguard with the next game. I think would just give BioWare a very easy win.
It absolutely would.
It would give them a very easy win. I think it would let EA give them more budget. And also, too, like, if you think about investors and you think about, like, the people that don't play video games that are making money off of this, the complaint with Hollywood right now is that everything's a sequel and a remake, but that's because it's a safe investment. So this would be a safe investment for investors, is to fully remake a game that did. I assume Origins sold well. Highly regarded, like, already successful title. Like, I think that would be a safe investment. I get how maybe, like, BioWare wants to tell new stories, but I think that would be a safe win for them.
Sure. Like the Legendary Edition, obviously different, but, you know.
I assume the writers wouldn't be allocated to that because it's all fully
it's already done.
I assume, I'm optimistic for the next Mass Effect. The fact that they're even continuing forward from the Milky Way, which they are, I'm a little flabbergasted that they had the balls to do that, and I'm excited.
Oh yeah, I honestly, I'm excited to see more on that, and it does seem like the Dragon Age team is now already in full scale on that team, working on that project.
Oh, so they've allocated the Dragon Age team to Mass Effect, because I know near the end of Veilguard they put Mass Effect people onto Veilguard.
Now they are. Now there are stories coming out that now Dragon Age is being allocated now to the Mass Effect team.
Oh, okay. So maybe how they're doing it is BioWare works on one game at a time.
I think so. Yeah.
That would then, a 3-year development cycle would make a lot of sense, I think.
So it'll be Mass Effect 2027, then Dragon Age 5 2030 potentially.
I was gonna say, so I mean, we're kind of at the end of 2024. So maybe end of 2027, we'll get the next Dragon Age. And I would like the next Mass Effect to be like 2025, 2027. I don't know how far along it is. We know nothing, but I would like it to be soon. Selfishly.
I mean, 2 years it will be amazing. That would be brilliant. I don't know how long.
They've had things happening with it. I don't know how much of it was, how far along it was before the Dragon Age people moved on to it, but they had something. And I just don't want to. I can tolerate a 3-year wait. That's what I'm saying. I would have a very difficult time with anything more. I think they've already said that they at least intend to do another Dragon Age. I don't think they've confirmed that anything's been started on it, but they at least intend to continue the IP. I think is what we've gotten, because I think, like, even before Veilguard came out, when asked about DLCs, they kind of said, like, we'd prefer to put the effort into the next title. So they're not saying they're making one, they're just saying
that's what they'd like to do. I think it's going to be a case of seeing what the sales are like given EA's expectations of it, because while it's selling well for a game in 10 years of development, we need to see EA's expectation, and I think that will only be in February at the next earnings call, where they may just say it's sold well or exceedingly well or beyond our expectations, but we need more context from that call.
They're going to look at what was the cost of development over the profit of the game.
Yeah.
And that could be when they decide to like make BioWare make a DLC.
Yeah, which would be brilliant, actually. That'd be brilliant.
And I'm curious too, like I've only just seen what I've been able to see on like how well it sold. So I'm not sure how EA perceives the success.
And that's what we need to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because it's selling well, but what's their expectation for it to sell as a Dragon Age title in 2024? Like, we don't know that.
Because it was one of the top games on Steam, which I believe is a huge achievement.
Yeah.
And that's not including console sales. And I play it on Xbox.
Yeah. So it was the most pre-ordered game on PS5 as well. So
hey,
like it's
that's all good indication of.
It sold really well in the UK, same as Dragon's Dogma 2, which sold really well in the UK for it to guarantee like its own franchise, and they may be getting DLC for that game, but it sold really well. So it's just a case of now we need the context of how well, what's the expectation for a game in 10 years of development. So it remains to be seen.
Is there a character for you that you either are excited to romance next, or that you've discovered is actually probably going to be your favorite romance in the game you just haven't done yet?
I reckon it'll be Emmerich, to be honest. I knew I would like him because he was told the sensual gentleman. I already love Sylvia Pekka-Takuti's writing style. It's a bit dry. You got that dark element to it, and then it just took me by complete storm.
Yeah, I think Emmerich surprised everyone.
Yeah, that's it. Because he come across
there was a big, at least in the circles I was swimming in or seeing, like people were really excited. Lucanus, like really excited about Lucanus.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people were like, damn, Necro.
That's so
charming. That's what I said too, like before I played the game. I was like, okay, here's what I think
that's it.
Do. I need to actually like get to know these characters, but just going off of like appearance, I was trying to decide between Lucanus and Davrin, and was kind of leaning towards Davrin.
Yeah. Every scene he's in, he captivates it. He really does. And that's the thing, he brings substance into the world though, which a lot of the characters don't.
It's a combination of really fantastic writing, thank you, Sylvia, and really fantastic voice acting.
Yes.
Those things together created this strong character archetype.
Absolutely.
Strong character
and
archetype.
Unique to Dragon Age as well. He's a mix, I'm not going to relate him to any other characters, but he does sit alone in the Dragon Age roster of companions as his own independent character, where people make connections to like Balara. Oh, she's like the quirkiness of Sarah with like the aspect of this other character. Yeah. Emmerich stands alone.
Emmerich is very unique to the character archetypes, absolutely. And something I can see that this could be good or bad, but like technically any of your characters can die.
Yeah.
Any of them can die and it would be canon, except for the ending where Rook fails and is sucked into the Fade. I think that's the fail state. That's not like canon. Because you know how you can like fail the suicide mission in Mass Effect 2?
Yeah.
Any of the companions can validly die. One of them has to die.
Yeah.
So the future of the dwarves deserve some Harding content in the future because of the implications, but the fact that she can and in a lot of cases has to die complicates things for the future. But I'm sure they thought about this when they chose for her to be a mandatory death, possibly. Well, I will die on the hill that you should always have Davrin sacrifice.
I'm going to do that next because I had Harding without realizing, and I was like, but I will be doing that.
Have you seen the scene?
No.
Can I say something, or do you want me not to say
No,
something?
you can say something.
Sweet old baby Asan. A little bit of a dum-dum.
Oh, no!
Because the like circumstances and animation for Harding's death and Davrin's death are pretty similar. Like, Gillian stabs them with her tentacles a bunch of times, and then they fall into that red pit of blight, who knows what.
Yeah.
Sweet little baby Asan, of his own free will.
Oh, no.
Dive into that pit after Davrin. The self-preservation just not there. And I get they had to do it because otherwise it wouldn't be like Davrin would be the very easy choice.
Yeah.
If Asan didn't also die.
Yeah.
So I get it, but
it's just silly.
I don't know like if I would prefer to see. I don't think I could deal with a violent end for sweet little baby Asan, but having him dive into that pit just felt a little dumb.
Yeah, it's a bit silly.
Yeah, so
it should have been a case of like maybe like he gets hit by Gillinan and he falls in as well. But at least he's like
a tentacle slap.
Yeah.
A tentacle slap,
yeah,
I could live with. A stabbing, no.
no
That'd be
stabbing. No, that'd be too much.
No
But at
stabbing,
least
but a tentacle slap or something,
yeah,
I could have been okay with. But him just diving into the pit did feel a little.
That's a bit silly.
It was a little silly, but I will die on the hill that there are 13 griffins, and now 12 if Hassan dies.
Yeah.
12 is enough to repopulate.
Yeah, for sure. But they could have had Hassan, even survive and just populate. It could have been like a third ending where
griffins or something.
Yeah,
like a nice little
he gets to stay with his family because he can't do that because he chooses Davrin each time.
A good little goodbye to Davrin.
Yeah, that'd have been better.
To take Hassan back to the wardens to the griffins or something.
Yeah. That would have been brilliant. Or to his mentor or his Monster Hunter friend.
Heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
In between the Tearstone Island. Where is Tearstone Island?
It's in Ravane. Because I was asking the same thing, and then the quest log says Ravane.
I'm looking at every status map.
Yeah.
Then I also determined it's in Ravane too, simply because of the environment. Like if you look at the shore, it's similar in appearance to Ravane shoreline.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, it's in Ravane, but it's nowhere on this map.
No, it isn't even highlighted. I, for a solid minute, thought it was Saharan, or how you say it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hell yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. It's still Ravane, cool. But it would have been cool.
No, it's not on the map. It's not on the Thetis map. There's not.
No, literally.
It's not there. I'm just saying that could have been an opportunity to go to the place called Soulless. That could have been some really funny dialogue.
It would have been brilliant.
Non-serious protagonist to be like, they're where?
Yeah. Actually, that would have worked.
Wait, really?
That would have worked so well. Okay. Thank you so much, Eric, though. I really, really appreciate you just chiming in and talking about Dragon Age for so long, spending your morning talking to you about the Veilguard, all of our rampant thoughts. I really, really appreciate it. Where can folks find you on X or any other social medias if they want to talk to you or have any ideas?
Yeah, I don't make videos anymore. I'm just a citizen of the world now. But my Twitter is EricAnder94, and my Instagram is Eric's Gay Insta.
I'm gonna follow it.
So if you wanna follow, you can. You don't have to. I don't do videos and stuff anymore, but this is very fun to do. To talk about BioWare stuff because I'm still invested in everything they do. But I don't consider me a news source per se. But you're happy to follow me if you want to follow me. I'm there. I'm around. I'm a person of the world.
Hell yeah. And I'm sure I'll have Eric on more episodes in the future. But again, thank you so much, Eric, for spending so much of your morning with me. Really appreciate it. And just chatted to you all about Veilguard. Folks, let us know all your thoughts. What do you think about the Veilguard? What would you like for future DLCs and everything else we've talked today? But until then, me and Eric should go.